Ambassador Zethkar stood before the massive curved screen in the council chamber. His forearms moved in quick patterns as he pulled up data files. The other council members watched from their floating seats. Each alien looked different from the others. Some had scales, others had crystal skin, and a few glowed with soft light. "Fellow council members," Zethkar began, his voice making clicking sounds, "we have found something that makes no sense." The screen showed a small blue and green planet. It spun slowly in the darkness of space. White clouds moved across its surface. To most beings, it looked peaceful and beautiful. "This is the third planet in a system the locals call Sol," Zethkar continued. "Our computers have given it a Class 13 Deathworld rating." A gasp went through the chamber. Vrextal, whose body was made of living crystal, stood up. Light flashed through his form as he spoke. "That cannot be right. No species has ever lived on a Class 13 world for more than 50 years. Dr. Nim-Ara floated forward. Her people looked like jellyfish made of pure energy. When she spoke, her voice sounded like singing. "The classification system has worked for thousands of years. Are you sure the data is correct?" Zethkar's eyes, all 6 of them, blinked in sequence. "I have checked the readings many times. This planet has deadly weather that changes without warning. The ground shakes and splits open. Poisonous gases come from the surface. The water contains chemicals that would kill most life forms. Dangerous radiation comes from their star." "Then the planet must be empty," said Council Leader Tormach. His people were tall and thin, with skin like tree bark. "Show us the surface scans." The screen changed. Now it showed cities full of lights. Roads connected the cities like bright lines in the dark. Ships moved across the blue oceans. Flying machines filled the air above the cities. "This is impossible," whispered Vrextal. "How many life forms are down there?" "Nearly 8 billion. Zethkar replied. "And they are not just staying alive. They are growing in number. They build new cities every year. They send machines into space." The council chamber fell silent. For many minutes, no one spoke. The idea of 8 billion beings living on a Class 13 Deathworld was beyond their understanding. Dr. Nimara's glow grew brighter as she thought. "Perhaps our classification system is wrong. Maybe this world is not as dangerous as our computers." I thought the same thing," Zethkar said. "So I looked deeper into their world." The screen changed again. Now it showed massive storms with winds that could destroy buildings. Lightning struck the ground thousands of times every second. These storms happen all the time. They call them hurricanes and tornadoes. The next image showed the ground breaking open. Fire and melted rock shot into the air. They have mountains that explode with liquid fire. The ground shakes so hard that their cities fall down. But they rebuild them in the same places. More images followed. Huge waves of water crashed over the land. Snow and ice covered entire continents. Heat waves made the air shimmer like water. "And yet," Zethkar continued, "they do not just survive these things. They live through them and keep building. They have spread to every part of their deadly world." Council Leader Tormach leaned forward in his floating chair. "What do we know about these beings? What do they call themselves?" "They call themselves humans," Zethkar replied. "They are bipedal mammals. They have no natural weapons like claws or poison. Their skin is soft and tears easily. They are not very strong compared to other species their size. By all rights, they should have died out long ago." "Show us what they look like," Dr. Nimara requested. The screen filled with images of humans. They had different skin colors and hair types. Some were tall, others short. They wore different types of clothing, depending on where they lived. "They look so fragile," Vrextal observed. "How do they survive without natural armor or weapons?" That is what we must find out, Sethkar said. I believe these humans may be the greatest mystery our council has ever faced. Meanwhile, on the small blue planet, Captain Jake Morrison sat in front of a wall of glowing screens. He worked in a secret building buried deep underground. Few people knew this place existed. Even fewer knew what happened here. Jake was 35 years old, with short brown hair and tired eyes. He had been watching the skies for signs of life from other worlds for 10 years. Most days brought nothing but empty space and distant stars. Today was different. Captain Morrison called Lisa Parker from across the room. She was 28, with long red hair tied back in a tight ponytail. Her job was to listen for signals from space. I'm getting something strange on the deep space monitors. Jake rolled his chair over to Lisa's station. Her screen showed waves of different colors moving up and down. What am I looking at? It's a signal, Lisa said, her voice excited. But it's not like anything we've seen before. It has patterns, like someone is trying to send a message. Ryan Clark walked over to join them. He was Jake's tactical officer, a big man with dark skin and careful eyes. His job was to think about what dangers might come from space. Could it be from another country? Maybe they launched something we don't know about? Lisa shook her head. No way, this signal is coming. From outside our solar system. Way outside. It would take our fastest rockets hundreds of years to get that far. Jake felt his heart beat faster. After 10 years of watching empty space, they might have found proof that humans were not alone in the universe. Can you clean up the signal? Make it clearer? Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her keyboard. The waves on her screen became sharper and more defined. Look at this, she said. The signal repeats every few minutes. And see these parts here? They look like math equations. Jake studied the screen. Even though he was not a scientist, he could see the patterns Lisa was talking about. The signal was definitely not natural. Someone or something had made it and sent it toward Earth. This could be first contact, Ryan said quietly. The first message from another world. Or it could be a threat, Jake replied. We need to decode this message, but we have to be careful. If this is real, it changes everything for humanity. Lisa continued working on the signal. She tried different ways to clean it up and make it clearer. After an hour of work, she called the others back to her station. I've managed to separate the signal into different parts, she said. Some of it looks like star charts. Maps of where the signal came from. And this part here might be some kind of greeting. Jake looked at the strange symbols on Lisa's screen. They looked nothing like any human language, but they had structure and meaning. Someone intelligent had created them. What do we do now? Ryan asked. Jake thought for a moment. This was the biggest discovery in human history, but it was also potentially the most dangerous. If these aliens were friendly, it could mean a new age for humanity. If they were hostile, it could mean the end of everything. We decode the message, Jake said finally, but we tell no one else until we know what it says. The fate of our species might depend on getting this right. As Jake spoke, he had no idea. That high above Earth, alien eyes were already watching. The Galactic Council had made their decision. They would send a team to observe these impossible humans and discover how they had survived on their deadly world. The first contact between humans and aliens was about to begin, but neither side knew what they were really getting into. 3 weeks after the Galactic Council meeting, a sleek alien ship moved silently through space near Earth's moon. The ship was invisible to human eyes, hidden by technology that bent light around it like water around a stone. Inside, Scout Commander Kixalon studied the blue planet through the ship's sensors. Kixalon belonged to a species called the Unity. His people looked like giant insects with 6 legs and 4 arms. Their bodies were covered in smooth, dark plates that could change color. 2 large compound eyes dominated his head, giving him perfect vision in all directions. "Begin close observation," Kixelon ordered his crew. "Remember, we must not let the humans detect us. The Council needs to know how these beings survived on such a deadly world." His science officer, Yiltara, activated the ship's advanced sensors. She belonged to the same species as Dr. Nimara, her body glowing with soft blue light. "Commander, I am detecting massive population centers all across the planet. The humans have built cities everywhere, even in the most dangerous regions." "Show me," Kixelon commanded. The main screen displayed a human city built next to a mountain that glowed with heat. Red liquid rock flowed down its sides like slow rivers. Steam and poisonous gases rose from cracks in the ground. "They live next to an active volcano," Yiltara said, her voice filled with disbelief. "The radiation levels alone should kill them within days." "Perhaps they have developed immunity to their world's dangers," suggested Zaken, the ship's tactical officer. His people were large and covered in thick scales. "We should observe their daily activities." The ship moved closer to Earth, staying hidden in the shadow of the moon. The crew focused their sensors on different parts of the planet, watching. The humans go about their lives. In the Amazon rainforest, Sergeant Amy Rodriguez led her squad through the thick jungle. She was 29 years old, tough and smart. Her job was to train new soldiers to survive in the wild. The alien observers watched in horror as she and her team walked calmly through what they recognized as one of the most poisonous environments on the planet. "Look at this," Yiltara whispered. "They are walking among plants that produce deadly toxins. Those insects could kill a grown Valerian with one bite. And they are doing it by choice." Amy stopped her squad next to a muddy river. "Listen up," she told the young soldiers. "This water looks dirty, but it's safe to drink if you purify it first." She pulled out a small device and dropped it into the water. After a few minutes, she filled her bottle and drank deeply. The aliens watched in amazement. The water contained bacteria that would dissolve the internal organs of most galactic species. Yet this human consumed it without fear. "Look there," Zaken pointed to another part of the screen. "More humans are entering the poisonous zone." Dr. Ben Martinez walked through the jungle with his research team. He was studying the plants and animals that lived there. Ben was a botanist who had spent years in Earth's most dangerous places. To him, the jungle was not a death trap, but a treasure house of knowledge. "These orchids only grow in areas with high levels of natural toxins," Ben explained to his students. "They have evolved to use the poisons as protection from other plants." The alien observers could not believe what they were seeing. Not only were humans surviving in a Class 13 environment, they were studying it and learning from it. "Commander," Yiltara said, her glow flickering with worry, "I am detecting even more disturbing behavior in the urban areas." The screen switched to show a construction site in a human city. Pete Collins stood on a narrow beam of metal, 500 feet above the ground. The wind was strong enough to knock most beings off their feet, but Pete moved along the beam as if he was walking on solid ground. "This is impossible," Zakan muttered. "The height alone would cause fatal panic responses in any civilized species. The atmospheric pressure at that altitude should make breathing difficult." Pete called out to his partner, Mike Johnson, who was working on another beam 20 feet away. "Hand me that wrench," Pete shouted over the wind. Mike casually tossed the heavy tool across the gap. Pete caught it with one hand while holding onto the beam with the other. Both men continued working as if they were safe on the ground. "They show no fear," Kixelon observed. "Either they cannot feel fear, or they have mastered it completely." The observation continued into the night. The aliens watched a hospital where Dr. Katie Bell worked as a nurse. She had been on duty for 14 hours straight, caring for patients with diseases that would be fatal to most galactic species. Her movements were still quick and precise despite her exhaustion. How long can these beings function without rest? Yultara wondered aloud. Katie entered a room where a patient was recovering from surgery. The man had been in a vehicle accident that should have killed him. His bones had been broken and his internal organs damaged. Yet here he was, sitting up in bed and talking to his family. I should be back to work in a few weeks, the patient told Katie. Can't wait to get back to my construction job. Katie smiled and checked his vital signs. Take it easy, Joe. Your body needs time to heal. The aliens were stunned. Not only had this human survived injuries that would kill most beings, he was planning to return to dangerous work as soon as he recovered. These humans must have incredible healing abilities, Zakin said. Or perhaps they are simply too primitive to understand the dangers they face. The ship's sensors picked up activity at a sports stadium. Thousands of humans had gathered to watch what appeared to be a combat ritual. The aliens observed as two teams of heavily armored humans ran at each other at high speed, colliding with tremendous force. By the void, Kixelon revved. They are engaging in organized violence for entertainment. On the field, quarterback Danny Walsh took the ball and ran toward the opposing team. 3 large defenders slammed into him, driving him to the ground with enough force to crack the ribs of most species. Danny got up, shook his head, and jogged back to his team as if nothing had happened. He was just attacked by multiple opponents, Yultara said, her glow pulsing with anxiety. Why is he not seeking medical attention? The crowd cheered as Danny threw the ball to another player. The receiver caught it while running at full speed and was immediately tackled by 2 defenders. He too got up and continued playing. This is not sport, Zakin concluded. This is gladiatorial combat. They are training their population for warfare. The aliens watched in growing horror as the game continued. Human after human was knocked down by impacts that should have been crippling. Yet they kept getting up and continuing to fight. Look at the spectators, Yultara pointed out. They are enjoying this violence. Even their young are watching. In the stands, 8-year-old Tommy Chun cheered as his favorite team scored a touchdown. His father, David, explained the rules of the game while his mother, Carol, bought snacks from a vendor. The whole family participates in this violence ritual, Kixelon observed. Even their offspring are being conditioned to accept brutality as normal. The observation team continued watching human activities throughout the night. They saw humans consuming liquids that would dissolve the stomachs of most species. They watched humans voluntarily expose themselves to temperatures that would kill other beings within minutes. They observed humans working in environments filled with deadly chemicals and radiation. Every observation led to the same conclusion. Humans were not victims of their harsh world. They were apex predators who had adapted to use their planet's dangers as tools and weapons. Commander, Yultara said, as dawn broke over Earth, I believe we have discovered something unprecedented. These humans have not just survived a class. 13 Deathworld. They have conquered it. Kixelon's compound eyes focused on the planet below. Send a priority message to the Council. Tell them we have encountered a species unlike any in our records. The humans are not refugees from a deadly world. They are warriors who have weaponized their entire planet. What are your recommendations? Zakin asked. Kixelon was quiet for a long moment. Everything they had observed suggested that humanity was the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. They had survived conditions that would destroy entire civilizations. They had turned their deadly world into a training ground for combat. They were multiplying rapidly and developing technology that would soon allow them to leave their planet. We continue observation, Kixelon finally said, but prepare to recommend immediate quarantine of this system. These humans must not be allowed to spread to other worlds. As the alien ship maintained its hidden position, none of the observers realized they had completely misunderstood everything they had seen. The truth about humanity would prove to be far more surprising than they could ever imagine. The alien observation ship had been watching Earth for 2 weeks. Each day brought new evidence that humans were the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. Scout Commander Kixelon reviewed the latest reports with growing alarm. "Shell, meet today's findings," he ordered his science officer, Yil Tara. The main screen displayed a human restaurant. Inside, dozens of humans sat at tables, eating food that glowed with heat. Steam rose from their plates as they consumed what appeared to be poison. "The humans call this substance hot sauce," Yil Tara explained. "It contains concentrated capsaicin, a chemical that causes extreme pain in most life forms. Yet they add it to their food voluntarily." On the screen, Maria Santos worked in the restaurant's kitchen. She was a chef who took pride in making the spiciest food in the city. Maria opened a container of Carolina Reaper peppers, the hottest peppers on Earth. Just opening the container released chemicals into the air that would have sent most aliens fleeing in terror. Maria chopped the peppers with bare hands, then added them to a pot of soup. The mixture was so potent that steam from the pot could cause blindness in many species. Yet Maria stirred it calmly, occasionally tasting it with a spoon. "She is consuming concentrated poison and shows no signs of distress," Yil Tara observed. "Her body temperature should be rising to fatal levels." At one of the restaurant tables, customer Rick Porter ordered the spiciest dish on the menu. When the food arrived, it was so hot that the plate itself was steaming. Rick took a large bite and smiled. "This is perfect," Rick told the waitress. "Can you bring me some extra hot sauce?" The waitress, Jenny Brown, brought Rick a bottle of sauce that was labeled with warning symbols. Rick poured it generously over his already burning food and continued eating with obvious pleasure. "They have evolved beyond the ability to feel pain," Zakan, the tactical officer, concluded. "This is the only explanation for their behavior. Or perhaps," Kixelon suggested grimly, "they have learned to enjoy pain. This would make them even more dangerous than we thought." The scene shifted to a human educational facility. The aliens had been monitoring these buildings, trying to understand how humans trained their young. What they saw confirmed their worst fears. At Jefferson High School, the gymnasium was filled with teenage humans engaged in what appeared to be ritual combat. 2 students, Kevin Johnson and Brad Miller, grappled with each other on a mat while others watched and cheered. "This appears to be gladiatorial training for their offspring," Yil Tara noted. "They begin combat conditioning at a very young age." Kevin, who was 17 years old, grabbed Brad around the waist and lifted him off the ground. Brad twisted in the air and landed hard on his back. The impact would have broken the spine of most galactic species. Brad simply rolled over and got back to his feet, ready to continue fighting. Coach Gary Stone watched the match from the sidelines. He was a former soldier who now taught physical education. To the aliens, he appeared to be a military instructor preparing the next generation of human warriors. "Good technique, Kevin," Coach Stone called out. "But remember to control the takedown. You don't want to injure your opponent." The aliens found this comment confusing. If this was combat training, why would they care about injuring each other? Perhaps they are conserving their warriors for future battles, Zakin suggested. The observation continued to the school's track field, where another group of teenagers was engaged in what appeared to be endurance torture. Under the hot sun, students ran lap after lap around the track. Their instructor, Ms. Linda Hayes, stood in the shade with a timer. "Come on, people," Ms. Hayes shouted. "Just 2 more miles to go." The aliens watched in amazement as the young humans pushed themselves to their physical limits. Several students were clearly exhausted, their faces red and sweat pouring from their bodies. Yet they continued running. "They are deliberately inducing heat exhaustion," Yiltara observed. "This level of training would kill the youth of most species." Student Sarah Kim felt her legs burning with fatigue, but she kept running. She wanted to make the varsity track team next year. Behind her, classmate Tony Garcia was struggling to keep up. His lungs burned and his heart pounded, but he refused to quit. "This is clearly military conditioning," Kixalan decided. They are preparing their entire population for warfare from childhood. The aliens' understanding of human nature took another dark turn when they observed a human medical facility. Dr. Patricia Wong was performing surgery on a patient who had been injured in what appeared to be a training accident. The patient, construction worker Alan Ross, had fallen from a height and broken several bones. The aliens expected him to die from such injuries. Instead, Dr. Wong was using advanced techniques to repair the damage. "Remarkable," Yiltara said. "They have developed medical technology specifically designed to repair battle damage. This suggests they engage in combat frequently enough to make such injuries common." Dr. Wong worked with steady hands, inserting metal rods to support Alan's broken bones. She had performed hundreds of similar operations. To her, this was routine medical care. To the aliens, it looked like battlefield surgery. "The human will recover completely," Dr. Wong told Alan's wife, Nancy. "He should be back to full activity within a few months." Nancy Ross nodded, looking relieved but not surprised. She had been married to a construction worker for 15 years. Injuries were part of the job. They treat these severe injuries as normal occurrences, Sakin noted. This confirms that human society is built around constant combat. The aliens' next observation took place at a facility that appeared to be a training ground for aerial combat. At the local skydiving center, instructor Bob Turner was preparing a group of humans for what looked like military insertion training. "Remember," Bob told his students, "keep your body stable during freefall. Don't panic if you start spinning." Student Lisa Adams nodded nervously. This was her first jump, and she was terrified. But she was determined to face her fear. She had always wanted to experience the thrill of falling through the sky. The aliens watched in disbelief as the humans willingly threw themselves out of a perfectly functioning aircraft. They fell toward the ground at deadly speeds, waiting until the last possible moment to deploy their parachutes. "They are training to insert warriors from aircraft," Kixalan observed. "This is clearly military preparation." Lisa screamed with a mixture of terror and joy as she fell through the clouds. The ground rushed up toward her at incredible speed. At the proper altitude, she pulled her ripcord and felt the parachute deploy above her. "This is amazing," Lisa shouted to her instructor, who was falling beside her. "I want to do this again tomorrow." "These humans actively seek out dangerous situations," Yiltara said. "They appear to enjoy activities that would cause panic responses in most species." The evidence continued to mount throughout the day. The aliens observed humans engaged in activities that defied all understanding of normal behavior. They watched rock climber Alex Turner scale a cliff face with only his hands and feet, no safety equipment visible. "He is climbing a vertical rock wall without any support," Sakin reported. "If he falls, he will certainly die." Alex moved carefully up the rock face, his fingers finding tiny cracks and ledges. This was free solo climbing, one of the most dangerous sports on Earth. To Alex, it was the ultimate test of skill and mental control. To the aliens, it looked like a suicide mission. "Perhaps this is a ritual," Yiltara suggested. "Some kind of test to prove worthiness for their warrior class." At a martial arts gym across the city, professional fighter Carlos Mendez was training for his next match. He spent hours punching heavy bags, practicing kicks, and grappling with training partners. His knuckles were covered with scars from years of training. "Look at the ritual scarification," Kixalon pointed out. "They marked their warriors to show their combat experience." Carlos's training partner, Jake Wilson, threw a punch that connected with Carlos's jaw. The impact would have knocked most beings unconscious. Carlos absorbed the blow and immediately countered with a kick to Jake's ribs. "They are engaging in full contact combat for training purposes," Zakan observed. "No civilized species would risk such injuries in practice." The final observation of the day took place at a human gathering that the aliens found most disturbing. At the downtown arena, thousands of humans had assembled to watch two warriors fight in a cage. The crowd cheered bloodthirstily as the fighters exchanged devastating blows. Mixed martial arts fighter Danny Rodriguez faced his opponent in the center of the cage. Both men were covered in sweat and breathing heavily. They had been fighting for 15 minutes, hitting each other with strikes that would hospitalize most galactic citizens. "This is clearly a death match," Kixalon said. "They are fighting until one of them is killed or permanently disabled." Danny threw a powerful punch that connected with his opponent's face. Blood splattered across the cage floor. The crowd roared its approval. "The spectators are encouraging the violence," Yiltara noted. "Their entire society celebrates brutality." But then something unexpected happened. Danny's opponent, Mike Thompson, was knocked down by the punch. Instead of continuing to attack, Danny stepped back and waited for the referee to check on Mike. The referee, a trained medical professional, examined Mike carefully. After determining that 3 weeks into their observation mission, the alien crew thought they understood humans. They were dangerous predators who had conquered a deadly world through violence and aggression. Everything they had seen supported this conclusion. But then the earthquake happened, and everything changed. At 3:47 in the morning, the ground began to shake along California's coast. It started as a gentle tremor that rattled windows and woke people from their sleep. Within seconds, it became a violent shaking that toppled buildings and cracked roads, open like broken eggs. The earthquake measured 7.8 on the human scale, strong enough to level entire city blocks. The aliens watched from their hidden ship, expecting to see human civilization collapse into chaos and violence. What they saw instead challenged everything they thought they knew about the species. Captain Steve Baker was asleep in his bed when the shaking started. He was a veteran of 20 years with the Los Angeles Fire Department. Steve had lived through earthquakes before, and he knew what to do. As soon as the shaking stopped, he grabbed his radio and headed for his truck. "This is Baker," he radioed to headquarters. "I'm heading to the epicenter. Send all available units." The aliens observed as Steve drove through the damaged streets. Buildings had collapsed, blocking roads with piles of concrete and twisted metal. Water from broken pipes flooded the streets. Electrical lines sparked and danced in the darkness. "The infrastructure has been destroyed," Yiltara reported. "Now we will see how humans respond to a crisis. This should reveal their true nature." Instead of the violence and chaos the aliens expected, they saw something unprecedented. As Steve arrived at the disaster zone, dozens of other emergency workers were already there. They worked together with perfect coordination, as if they had practiced this exact scenario hundreds of times. "Look at their response," Zakan said, confused. "They are not fighting each other for resources. They are working together." Paramedic Rachel Green was pulling victims from a collapsed apartment building. She had been on duty for 6 hours already, but there was no time to rest. People were trapped under tons of concrete and steel, and every minute counted. "I've got a pulse," Rachel called out as she checked on an elderly man they had just freed from the rubble. "He's stable, but we need to get him to a hospital." Rachel worked with surgical precision, checking the man's injuries and preparing him for transport. The aliens watched in amazement as she risked her own safety to save a complete stranger. Why? Is she endangering herself for another individual? Yltara asked. This behavior makes no sense from a survival standpoint. At the same time, volunteer coordinator Helen Davis was organizing civilian rescue efforts. Helen was 72 years old and retired, but she had come to the disaster site as soon as she heard about the earthquake on the news. We need more people to help search for survivors, Helen told a group of volunteers who had gathered in a parking lot. Remember, safety first. If a building looks unstable, wait for the professionals. The volunteers ranged in age from teenage students to senior citizens. None of them were trained rescue workers, but they all wanted to help. They formed teams and began searching through the rubble for anyone who might be trapped. College student Mark Chun worked alongside retired mechanic Bill Foster. They had never met before, but they worked together as if they had been partners for years. When they heard a voice calling for help from under a collapsed wall, they immediately began moving debris. Careful with that beam, Bill warned Mark. If we move it wrong, the whole thing could come down. Together, they created a safe opening in the rubble. Inside, they found a mother with her young daughter. Both were scared but uninjured. Thank you, the mother said, as Bill and Mark helped her and her daughter to safety. I don't know what we would have done without you. The aliens observed this scene with growing confusion. These humans had never met each other before, yet they were risking their lives for strangers. This contradicts all our previous observations, Kixalon said. Where is the violence? Where is the competition for resources? As dawn broke, the scope of the human response became clear. Rescue teams had arrived from all over the state. Medical personnel set up emergency hospitals in parking lots. Engineers examined damaged buildings to determine which ones were safe. Doctor Linda Chun had been working for 8 hours straight in the emergency medical station. She was a pediatric surgeon who specialized in treating children, but today she was helping anyone who needed care. When a rescue team brought in an injured firefighter, she immediately began treating his wounds. You need to get some rest, doctor, Nurse Tony Martinez told her. You've been working since the earthquake started. Linda looked up from her patient for a moment. Her eyes were tired, but her hands were steady. There are still people who need help. I can rest later. Tony nodded and continued assisting her. He had also been working without a break, but like Linda, he refused to stop while people needed medical care. The aliens watched this dedication with amazement. These humans were pushing themselves beyond their physical limits, not for personal gain, but to help others survive. Their behavior is completely irrational, Zakan observed. They are exhausting themselves to help individuals who provide no benefit to them. The most shocking discovery came when the aliens observed the global response to the disaster. Within hours of the earthquake, aid began arriving from around the world. Countries that had no political alliance with the United States sent rescue teams, medical supplies, and financial assistance. From Japan came earthquake experts who understood how to find survivors in collapsed buildings. From the United Kingdom came search dogs trained to locate people trapped in rubble. From Mexico came teams of volunteers who had experience with similar disasters. This is unprecedented, Yltara said, her bioluminescent form pulsing with confusion. Humans from completely different territories are helping each other. They are sharing resources with no expectation of return. Canadian rescue worker Paul Thompson had driven 18 hours straight to reach the disaster zone. He brought with him a team of specialists and a truck full of rescue equipment. When asked why he had come so far to help strangers, his answer baffled the aliens. Because they needed help, Paul said simply. If this had happened in Canada, Americans would have come to help us. The aliens had no frame of reference for this kind of behavior. In their understanding, species helped members of their own group, or tribe, but never strangers from distant lands. As the days passed, the alien observation team witnessed even more confusing behavior. Instead of the chaos and violence they expected, after a major disaster, human society became more cooperative than ever. At a temporary shelter set up in a school gymnasium, families who had lost their homes were being cared for by volunteers. Mary Johnson, a local teacher, had organized the shelter with military-like efficiency. She made sure everyone had food, clean water, and a place to sleep. "We have room for 20 more families," Mary told the Red Cross coordinator. "My neighbors have donated blankets and clothes. The local restaurants are providing free meals." 8-year-old Emma Wilson sat in the shelter with her parents. Their house had been destroyed in the earthquake, and they had lost everything they owned. But Emma was not crying. She was helping other children who were scared and confused. "It's going to be okay," Emma told a younger boy whose family spoke a different language. "The nice people here will take care of us." The aliens watched this interaction with complete bewilderment. A human child who had just lost her home was comforting other children instead of competing with them for resources. "Their young are displaying altruistic behavior under extreme stress," Yiltara observed. "This goes against every principle of natural selection." At the city's main hospital, Dr. Patricia Wong had been working for 3 days with only brief periods of rest. She had performed dozens of surgeries on earthquake victims, many of whom could not pay for medical care. When hospital administrator Robert Clark suggested she take a break, Patricia refused. "There's a little girl in surgery room 3 who needs me," Patricia said. "Her family doesn't have insurance, but that doesn't matter. She's just a child." The little girl was Sofia Martinez, whose parents had brought her to the hospital after she was injured in the earthquake. Sofia's family were undocumented immigrants who were afraid to seek help from authorities. But the hospital staff treated Sofia with the same care they would give to any other patient. "We don't ask about immigration status in the emergency room," Dr. Wong explained to Sofia's worried parents. "We just help people who need help." This concept was completely foreign to the aliens. In galactic society, medical care was provided based on citizenship, social status, and ability to pay. The idea of treating strangers with the same care as family members was unthinkable. The turning point in the aliens' understanding came when they observed a scene that completely contradicted their assumptions about human nature. At a damaged shopping center, looters had broken into several stores and were stealing supplies. "Finally," Zakin said with relief, "now we see their true nature. The crisis has revealed their predatory instincts." But instead of joining the looters or ignoring them, other humans intervened. Store owner Kim Park had lost his business in the earthquake, but when he saw people steal, the alien ship's stealth systems failed completely just as the sun rose over Earth's Pacific Ocean. Scout Commander Kixelon watched his control panels flash red warning lights as their advanced camouflage technology shut down piece by piece. "Breach in Section 7, reported his engineer, Taltux. "The solar flare has damaged our primary systems. We are visible to human sensors." On Earth, Captain Jake Morrison was still working at his secret monitoring station when Lisa Parker's screens lit up with alerts. After weeks of analyzing the mysterious alien signal, they now had something even more extraordinary. "Captain, I'm detecting a massive object in lunar orbit," Lisa called out urgently. "It just appeared out of nowhere. It's definitely not human." Technology. Jake rushed to Lisa's station and stared at the readings. The object was enormous, shaped unlike any spacecraft humans had ever built. After weeks of preparing for first contact, it was finally happening. "Ryan, get the Defense Department on the secure line," Jake ordered. "But tell them we're treating this as a rescue situation, not a threat." Ryan Clark looked confused. A rescue. Situation? Look at the readings, Jake explained. Their power systems are failing. They're in distress. Jake's decision to treat the aliens as beings in need of help, rather than invaders, would prove to be the most important choice in human history. Aboard the alien ship, Pixelon faced a crisis that could doom his entire crew. Their life support systems were failing, and they were too far from the nearest Galactic Council outpost to call for help. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the planet," Yultara reported. "The humans have detected us." Kixelon expected to hear threats or demands for surrender. Instead, the message that came through their communication system was completely unexpected. "Unknown vessel, this is Earth Defense Command," came a human voice speaking in perfect galactic standard language. "We have detected system failures. Aboard your ship. Do you require assistance?" The aliens stared at their speakers in shock. These humans, who they had observed surviving on the most dangerous planet in the galaxy, were offering to help the very beings who had been spying on them. "How do they know our language?" Peltox whispered. "They must have decoded our earlier transmissions," Yultara replied. "But why are they offering help instead of attacking?" Kixelon made a decision that went against all his training. "Open A. Channel. Tell them we accept their assistance." Within hours, human spacecraft launched from Earth, carrying rescue equipment and medical supplies. The mission was led by Commander Bill Harper, an experienced astronaut who had spent years preparing for possible contact with alien life. "Remember, we're here to help," Bill told his crew as they approached the alien ship. "These beings are in trouble, and it's our job to get them to safety." The rescue operation took place at the International Space Station, humanity's greatest achievement in space construction. As the alien crew was brought aboard, they experienced human hospitality firsthand. Dr. Patricia Wong, who had been brought up from Earth to provide medical care, examined each alien with gentle hands and obvious concern for their well-being. She had never seen beings like them before, but she treated them with the same care she would give to any patient. "Your biology is fascinating," Dr. Wong told Yultara as she checked her bioluminescent patterns. "Are you in any pain? Is there anything we can do to make you more comfortable?" Yultara had never experienced such kindness from a stranger. "You are helping us even though you know nothing about us." "Why?" Dr. Wong smiled. "Because you needed help. That's what we do." As the aliens recovered aboard the space station, they had the opportunity to observe human behavior up close. What they saw completed their transformation of understanding about the species. Astronaut Lisa Adams, who had been terrified during her first skydive weeks earlier, now calmly managed life support systems in the vacuum of space. The aliens realized that human courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite fear when others needed help. Engineer Tom Rodriguez worked around the clock to repair the alien ship's systems. He had never seen technology like theirs before, but he approached each problem with patience and creativity. When language barriers made communication difficult, Tom used drawings and gestures to share ideas with the alien engineers. "Your people are natural problem solvers," Peltox told Tom through a translation device. "You see challenges as puzzles to be solved rather than obstacles to be avoided." The real breakthrough in understanding came when Kixelon was able to speak directly with Captain Jake Morrison. The two commanders met in the station's observation deck, looking out at the blue and white planet that had produced such remarkable beings. "We have been watching your world for weeks," Kixelon admitted. "Our council classified Earth as a Class 13 Deathworld. We came to understand how your species survived in such a dangerous environment." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "Earth is dangerous. We face storms, earthquakes, diseases, and 1,000 other threats. But we've learned that we're stronger together than any of us could be alone. We observed your sports and recreational activities, Kixelon continued. We thought they were combat training for a warrior species. Jake laughed. I can see how. You might think that. But those activities teach us to push our limits safely, to trust our teammates, and to respect our opponents. Competition makes us better, but cooperation makes us survive. Kixelon's understanding of humanity crystallized in that moment. You have turned your harsh world into a teacher rather than enemy. Every challenge Earth throws at us teaches us something new, Jake agreed. Hurricanes taught us to build stronger houses and help our neighbors prepare. Earthquakes taught us engineering and emergency response. Even diseases have taught us medicine and public health. And your recreational consumption of capsaicin? Kixelon asked. Jake grinned. Sometimes we just like the taste of things that challenge us. It reminds us that we can handle whatever life throws our way. As the days passed, the aliens learned that every aspect of human behavior they had misunderstood had a deeper purpose. The dangerous sports taught risk management and teamwork. The extreme working conditions were simply humans adapting to build the civilization they wanted. The apparent violence of contact sports was actually carefully controlled competition that built character and community. The most important lesson came when Ambassador Zethkar arrived from the Galactic Council to personally assess the situation. The four-armed Valerian had expected to find humans holding the alien crew hostage or demanding tribute. Instead, he found his people living freely among humans who treated them as honored guests. Commander Kixelon, what is your assessment of the human threat level? Zethkar asked. There is no threat, Kixelon replied. These beings are the greatest survivors in the galaxy, but their strength comes from cooperation, not conquest. Zethkar observed the humans working alongside the aliens to complete repairs on the scout ship. Engineer Tom Rodriguez was teaching Peltox new problem-solving techniques, while Peltox shared advanced alien technology concepts with Tom. Both species were learning from each other. They are sharing their knowledge freely, Zethkar noted with amazement. They ask for nothing in return, because they understand that knowledge shared makes everyone stronger. Jake explained when Zethkar questioned him about human motivations. We've learned that lesson the hard way on Earth. Cooperation isn't just nice to have, it's necessary for survival. Dr. Patricia Wong had been working with Dr. Nim Ara, who had arrived with Zethkar to understand alien physiology. The two doctors found that despite their completely different biology, they shared the same dedication to healing and helping others. Your people have developed remarkable medical techniques, Dr. Nimara told Patricia. The way you repaired our engineers' bioluminescent organs was brilliant. We've had to get good at fixing things that break, Patricia replied. Living on a dangerous world teaches you that every life is precious and worth saving. The final understanding came when 8-year-old Tommy Chun, whose family had visited the space station as part of a school program, met with the alien visitors. Tommy was not afraid of the strange beings. Instead, he was curious and excited to make new friends. Do you have kids on your world? Tommy asked Yultara. Yes, we do, Yultara replied, her glow warming at the child's innocent question. That's cool, Tommy said. Maybe someday our kids can play together. That simple statement from a human child contained the entire truth about humanity. They didn't see differences as reasons for conflict. They saw them as opportunities for friendship and learning. When the time came for the aliens to return to their ship, now fully repaired, Ambassador Zethkar made an unprecedented offer. The Galactic Council has decided to invite humanity to join our alliance, he announced. Not as subjects or junior partners, but as full members with equal status. We would be honored, Jake replied, but we have one condition. The aliens waited nervously. What would these remarkable beings demand? We want to share what we've learned about survival and cooperation, Jake continued. If other species in the galaxy are facing challenges like we have on Earth, we want to help them. Zethkar's 4. Arms moved in a gesture of amazement that his species used to express profound respect. You wish to help others before helping yourselves? Helping others is H.